Can you prove life after death? Robert Bigelow seems to believe that you can. The former owner of Skinwalker Ranch and space entrepreneur announced the creation of a new project, the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies, the BICS for short, which hopes to stimulate new research into the survival of human consciousness beyond death. In an exclusive on-camera interview, Bigelow shared his personal experiences and losses that prompted his interest in life after death as well as UFOs. This is from MysteryWire.com. The businessman has likely spent more money investigating the UFO mystery than any other person in history, tens of millions of dollars over 30 years. He not only gave financial support to individual researchers, but also established his own think tank, the National Institute of Discovery Science, or NIDS for short. During the NIDS era, Bigelow learned about a paranormal hotspot in northeastern Utah, a ranch where UFOs, animal mutilations, cryptid creatures, poltergeist activity, and other bizarre phenomenon had been reported with alarming frequency dating back many years. Bigelow bought the property and installed his own scientific team to investigate various weird incidents. The property is known far and wide as Skinwalker Ranch. If you'd like to know more about Skinwalker Ranch, I did a live show, several shows actually, about a month ago, covering in depth the history and oddities surrounding Skinwalker Ranch. It is available in the playlist Enter the Unfamiliar. Bigelow sold Skinwalker Ranch in 2016. During his ownership, Bigelow was contacted by scientists employed by the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agencies. The conversations between the two men eventually led to the creation of a special secretive research project funded by the Pentagon. The program was called AAWSAP, and it eventually morphed into the smaller effort known as the AATIP. Robert Bigelow now turns his attention to trying to prove in life after death. His experiences on Skinwalker Ranch have prompted his desires to even further research into the paranormal. Although he himself states he never lost a good night's sleep on Skinwalker Ranch, that is not everyone's experience, and this kind of research goes to uncover and does uncover the, quote, things to be concerned about, end quote. He states that as they began to research, reading books, studying up on the phenomenon itself, they started to have people around them have weird things that began to happen to them, and it wasn't all rosy. This happened not only to his staff, but family members, and to Robert himself. He also claims these events started happening before they even decided to go headlong into the research. Robert considers this the, quote, holy grail, unquote, beyond E.T., which he considers being a little lower. He considers whether consciousness survives after death as numero uno of all discoveries. He started his research into UFOs before 1989. He decided to read a book a week on the subject of UFOs. He wanted to know everything he could on all sightings, witness stories, crash retrievals, trace cases, simply to be able to talk the talk and know what he was talking about and what others were talking about around him. He believes reading literature is paramount to any research undertaking into a subject. What he discovered was that there seems to be a metaphoric, quote, wall, unquote, that seems to keep much of this information hidden, almost as if we're not intended to know it. Robert planned to find the best of the best and help finance their research. He put his money into topic-specific research. Linda Howe, for example, would be chosen for her work into cattle mutilation. She worked with the skin and the hemoglobin, otherwise known as the blood, of the mutilated cattle to try to establish whether high heat had been used, but Hopkins, for example, was used and financed for his research into abductions. He was also able to establish that certain UFO crash retrieval stories had in fact occurred based on their research. He worked with Stan Freeman as well on a certain crash in New Mexico. No, not that crash. One that occurred in the 1960s. He financed speaking engagements that involved psychiatrists and psychologists that would test the audience on what else these abduction stories could possibly be. What kind of psychosis could cause this rare event, if not for the event actually having taken place?
And so John Mack, he was looking at it from a different clinical kind of standpoint on abductees. I sponsored a number of free lectures where he and other folks into this field, researchers, would engage mental health professionals and psychologists, psychiatrists, and other therapists, and challenge the audience. We had maybe 100 people each time in major cities, and challenge them to come up with an explanation as to why these people were claiming making these ridiculous claims about being involved in an abduction, an alien abduction. What kind of psychosis is responsible for that? You know, what would it be? Especially if there are multiple people involved in the abduction as witnesses. You got a collective psychosis now, you know, and so by the end of the evenings, they would run completely out of gas. The audience would and could, because everything had been answered, and to their satisfaction. It wasn't that they've been told to shut up or anything. It's that they ran out of gas. They had no more questions to ask because they couldn't think of anything else as a cause.
Robert went on to create the NIDS, National Institute of Discovery Science, and put together a world-class team of researchers who not only study the UFO phenomenon, but also life after death. Realizing they bit off more than they could chew, they eventually cut out the life after death and focused solely on the UFO research, believing it had a more favorable approach to it and it wasn't as complicated. In 1996, Robert found himself intrigued by Terry Sherman's personal account of owning Skinwalker Ranch. He found Terry's stories so compelling and believable that he decided to purchase the property from Terry with the condition that he would stay on Robert's team because he had first-hand knowledge. Robert originally was interested in Skinwalker Ranch for the UFO sightings, but quickly discovered there was an intelligence there that ventured into the unexplainable. He himself stated, quote, "I do not know with whom we were communicating," end quote. Because of all the circumstances around the communications, he narrowed it down to two possibilities.
It was either a discarnate entities, non-human entities, or ETs. We could just about eliminate everything else because it would be impossible. I mean, you can't be 500 miles away and make requests that things show up on camera, and you have witnesses that are taking the pictures of the camera, and you ask them, what is it that you're seeing in that camera? And they have no idea what to say because it's not something you've had any conversation with them about. And they're just describing you what it is. And it's exactly what you requested. And you do it again. And you do it again. And there are different kinds of things that are showing up is what you requested. And they're telling you this over the telephone. We set up, spontaneous photos in different places. And things would happen. There's no reason for photons to travel 5 feet and stop. 5 or 6 feet. And everything is blacked out behind that because of, well, we don't know, but that's as far as the photons would travel. Or you're randomly taking pictures and you're capturing a nightstand right alongside the bed, and in that photo something is lifting off. And it's changing hue and tone and shades of color. It looks very mechanical, but it's hard to tell. There appears to be not only the movement, it's in an arc, but it's a little blurry, like there's movement going on, but of course it is moving, but maybe there's something else happening too. And no, it wasn't a bird or a butterfly that was sitting there at that. It wasn't some kind of object like that, because of the circumstances. Or you're taking pictures of somebody. You take pictures of rods flying past, different color kinds of something tubular going by. You're taking pictures of where there's so many orbs around someone who is sick, legitimately ill, and now they start feeling better, and the camera is catching all this in multiple shots, and it's a cloud. You can't count them. There's thousands, and it's in a cloud formation, and only on the periphery are you able to start to see some individual ones. It's all lit up.
Another story he explained was an incident when two scientists had been out on a field watching over an area in this basin. One scientist had special night vision goggles, the other did not. The one scientist who had the goggles was able to see a tunnel or portal open before his very night goggle cleansed eyes. As he saw this open, he was able to glean inside of the portal and see blue sky on the other side of it. The scientist without the goggles saw nothing with his own human eyes. As he was watching this, he saw a dark, shadowed humanoid figure crawl out of the portal, stand up, and run up the basin out of sight. This was only seen with these special night vision goggles. Was he looking into another dimension? Was this another realm? The paranormal? The spiritual? These are the questions Robert wants to answer. After a while, Robert, as silly as it sounds, started to get bored because he realized he couldn't figure out who or what he was in contact with on Skinwalker Ranch. He then explained there was a phenomenon known as hitchhikers, where these things or entities would attach themselves to him and others that had been staying on the ranch and would follow him after he left the ranch. So far, it seems it has not stopped. All these experiences have convinced him that there is another realm that exists after you die. From stories of near-death experience to reincarnation, he has run the gamut on possibilities and wants to explore it further. Where are memories stored? How does this work? How does the consciousness continue to function after the brain stops? Where does it exist? These are the questions Robert wants to answer, and has led him to something quite interesting and fun. Because of all the near-death experiences, people being able to explain things that they had seen while they were otherwise pronounced dead. Former lives, people being able to know things that they shouldn't know. Have history that they've never learned. In some cases, even speak languages that they were never taught. These near-death experiences has led Robert to want to delve even deeper into this topic. Robert is conducting a contest for anyone who can provide evidence or make a strong case for the afterlife. It is open to all walks of life and religions, but you must provide reason with research and data beyond simply quoting scripture. They want something tangible. As an incentive, he is offering an award of $500,000 for first place prize, $300,000 for second place, and $150,000 for third place prize. You can go to his website, which is linked in the description below, to find out more about the contest, read the rules, regulations, and timelines. I wish you the best of luck. We thank you for watching.